Hello, in this video I will be showing you how to update the NguhRoutes file on the wiki. First I will show you how to add stops on new lines and pre-existing lines. Then I will show how to add names for stations. Then I will show how to add Nether portals because those need to be added so that NguhRoutes knows that you can transfer between an overworld station and a Nether station. Lastly, I will show how to add interchanges, which are when you can transfer on foot between two stations, or potentially more than two stations, and impassable markers, which are when you mark that a line has been broken at a certain point between two stops. Hopefully the chapters will work on this video, otherwise check the description for timestamps. Now, there are three main levels of detail that you can have when adding a stop to a line. The simplest one is to just add the stop with a code but without any coordinates. If you do this, then the NguhRoutes mod will completely ignore the stop, but the central network page will show the stop. This is because the mod needs some information to be able to estimate how long travel time is and when you reach a stop, so if coordinates are not provided, then it can't use it. But this is a way to at least have it on the central network page on the wiki. Next, you can measure it with the mod's measuring tool with coordinates as well as time and distance from the previous stop to the next one, or from the previous stop and to the next one, which will let the mod use that station. Lastly, there is an in-between where you just add the coordinates, which does put it in the mod, but does not require any measuring or any usage of the measuring tool, except just the coordinates. However, there are things you should still consider if you do that one, so do watch that segment. But if you think the measuring tool is too complicated, that's like an in-between. So let's start with adding a new line. So we'll add this one, Venrail N3. And so let's edit source. And then you can see there's a lines object which has overworld and nether. This is actually a nether line. So if I search here nether, this is where it is. And then what we want, I put it next to the Venrail line that's already here. So let's, if I do this, I can see where the end is. So let's make sure it's correct, and I can copy the information. So there's some information here. So it's a local line, and this is not strictly necessary actually. There's also a brand like thing you can add, which is also not necessary. I don't know if so I could add like brand and then there's also, you can see this one has a color, HTML color, which will actually be displayed in the mod if you add it. But then this is the N3, which we are adding, and then this is an important one, it stops. That's where you put all of the stops that we will be adding. So if I just want to do the simple option, what I can do is I can just add like code, which is NSV WNF. And actually something to note for Nether stations is that you need to add N here, but for the different stops you don't actually need to add N, but it adds it in automatically. But you can also add the N if you want. I did that because it maybe if you're adding lots of stuff, it's annoying to type N all the time, but you can have the N if you want for consistency. And then like if I just add this, then the mod would completely ignore this thing here. And but let's say we actually want it to work in the mod, which that wouldn't work in the mod. That's just if you want it on the on the wiki on the Sendroid network page. So to add it in the mod, you need to use the measuring tool, and there is a command version of it. So nrel measure, and then there are also different things. But a lot of these have keybinds that you can use, and I would recommend that you use keybinds for start measuring and stop measuring. So I have it set to my mouse side buttons. And so I will show you now how to use it. So I will press to start and then do this and then stop. I was a bit bad with that timing there, but you see the idea. And then you see it says nstop JSON copy to clipboard. It does that automatically, but this means that it just, because usually you just want the second stop, the information for that one, because if you're adding like at the end of a line, then you don't want the information for the stop you came from, because that's probably already in the file. You just want this information for the stop that you went to. But when you do adding a new line or adding a stop at the start of a line, then you do want both probably. So for this one, you can see that if I paste in here, it has this information is for the stop that I'm currently stopped at. But I actually want both. So in order to copy that, you do nr measure copy. And if you just do copy, it does the same thing as the nstop JSON copy to clipboard. But if you instead do both like this, now you see that when I paste in here, it has information for both. And you can see it has the date that we measured at, it has the coordinates, and it hasn't filled in the code because it doesn't know what the codes are. We have to fill that in. And then here it has distance and time from the previous stop. The most important information here is just time actually. So that's just so that it knows how long does it take to travel from one stop to the next. So this is the stop that we came from. It's SV WNF, or potentially you could do this as well. And then this one is SV NEM. I have the codes already from on one. So let's do the next one. So here I am already at the station, so I'll just start and then do this and then stop. And then I can put the cursor here and paste, and you see it just works. And then although make sure that the commas are correctly, but it will give like an error symbol here if the commas or anything like that is messed up. And then this is SVWAF. And so that should be the entire line. So here, so I'll save here. Oh, this stupid bug. Let's save and go back to the game. And it won't work immediately because NguhRoutes loads everything at right when you, I think when you launch the game, but you can reload it by doing nr reload. And it will take a couple seconds, but it's now downloading the data from the wiki and processing it. And now you can see that it's finished loading. It gives a message in chat. So now if I do nres nsvwnf, I think it's that one. Oh, and by the way, you can see that we haven't added any names, so it just displays the code as the name. So I will be showing later how to add names. So now you can see we can go here and it knows we're at the stop because it has the coordinates. And now it's finished. So now I will be showing how to add new stops to a pre-existing line. So first you want to figure out which direction the line was measured in, because you need to measure it in the same way. Because if you go here to N3, you see that this time is from the previous stop. So you need to make sure you're measuring it going in the same direction. So here I have actually removed the middle stop now. So it just goes straight from that cobblestone box to the worked forest, which means that if I try to go to the worked forest, it let's see, what does it do? It tells me to go up to the cobblestone box and travel to the work for it, because it doesn't know there's a stop here. So if you are adding a stop to the end of a line, then all you do would be essentially just like when you're adding a new line, you go to the final stop and then continue on from there, like when adding a new line. But if you're adding in the middle, then there are several things you need to think about. First, you need to go to the stop that comes before here. So let's do that. So now we're here, and now let's measure from here to the next one, like this. And then we need to edit down to n. Oh, make sure it's searching in the right box. So let's put the cursor here and then paste. You see, then the commas become correct, but it will tell you if you messed the commas up. And so now we have the time from this stop to this one, but this is actually not enough, because this time is measured from this stop. So but the mod will interpret the time as being from this one, which is incorrect. So we need to measure from this one to this one as well. But let's add the code. So that's SV NEM. And then let's do to the next one. So now we have that as well. And then here I can actually, in this case, just remove it. You can check if there's some other information. Sometimes there's other information like usage nodes, so you might want to keep that. But in this case, there was nothing there worth keeping, so I just deleted it. But otherwise, what you can do, what I would usually do, is I paste, so there's both, then I copy information, and then I just delete the old one, like this. But now we should be done with that. So now if we do nr reload, so that it downloads the data, we can do nrs, what is it? Yeah, this one. So you can see now it knows that there's a stop in the middle, where's the button? There. Now it knows that this stop is here. Okay, this time I have deleted the first stop, which, like the first in this list, because if you need to add a stop to the start of a line, then it's a bit more complicated, because you have to use the copy both thing. So I'll show what that looks like. So this is the first stop, and now let's start measuring here. We need to measure it in this direction, because that's the direction that these are measured in, so it needs to be consistent. And then if you see here, it actually copies the second one, which is already here. That's not the one that we want to add. So to do nr measure copy both. Now it copies both of them. We don't actually. Oh, yes. We need to have this one, which is svwnf. And then this one has this information, which is also needed here. So actually, in this case, we can just remove it. And it's complaining about commas. So let's see. No, that's correct. And let's add the code as well. So now it should be correct, I think. If we do reload, and then do NOS and SVWNF, it knows that this stop is here. Okay, now I will show how to add a stop with just coordinates in case you don't want to use the NR measure stuff. Although actually there is an NR measure that can help you with the coordinates, so I'll show that, but you can also use F3 if you want. So I have removed this middle stop from the line, so there's just that one and that one. So let's measure preferably from like where the rail is. So I'll show with the here how to where it's called. This copies the coordinates. And then let's add the middle stop. So the way to do it is you go here to N3, and then here in the middle, let's add it. So there are several things that you need to consider here. First, these values, dist and time, they are measured from this stop. But if you add a stop in the middle here, the mod will think that these are actually from this one, which is not true. So that will give inaccurate times between these stops. So what you have to do is you have to remove these, and then this will make it so that it relies purely on the coordinates to estimate the time. And then we need to add here manually. So code is sv, what is it? Nem. And then the chords are like this in these brackets, and then you can paste here. And actually you could add the date if you want. It is not strictly necessary. The measuring tool gives you it automatically. So now this should be correct. And now if we reload, so now that it's reloaded, we can do NRS and then NSVWNF. And you can see it knows that there's a stop here because we added those coordinates. But as you might have noticed, it doesn't display any names because we haven't added any names. It just uses the code as the name. So now I will show how to add names. So what you need to do is you need to go here. You need to go to stations. I think it's called. Yes, this one. So you can see it has names here. And so I have tried to add the names alphabetically, but not everyone has followed that. And in general, I ignore the N hyphen when doing alphabetic sorting. So most of these will be under SV. So let's see. So first off, we have NSVWNF. So this one, actually for this one, I can show how to add multiple names. Because this one has multiple names, so it's star ways. And the first one will become the primary one, but the other ones are available when searching in the mod. So star ways, nether floor, or alternatively star ways, nether hub. So now both will be available. And then for the other ones, NSVFRF. This one is not one from the line, but you can actually add names even if it's not on any line. SVWAF. That should be all of the names. So let's save. And now if we do the same, this one, you can see it has the names. So if you want to make a line loop, then what you need to do is you need to find here, and then you can add loop True. I usually put it at the end, but actually you don't need to put it at the end. You can put it up here. And what you can do also is that you can measure, like this will work because these coordinates, you can go off just the coordinates, but if you want to, you can be a bit more thorough and also measure from the last stop to the first stop. So let's say we have that here. And then we just copy these. That's all we need, and add it to the first stop. Like this. So you can do that if you want it to loop. So now I will show how to add Nether portals, because you need to add Nether portals so that it knows, like, first of that there is a connection between a certain Nether station and an overworld station, and also how to guide the user to the Nether portal when you need to transfer between dimensions. So we have one here, and I will go in here, and there is a command that you can use. Measure, this would copy the coordinates, but I have it set to a keybind as well. So I'll copy here while it's going through the portal. Let's go down here and let's find portal, or is that connections? I think yes. So here we can add somewhere. I'll add it to the sort. Then you need to add both. So let's do code, and this is the Nether station, and you need to specify n hyphen if you have the Nether station. So this NSV WNF, and then the coordinates like that, and then for the overworld station, that's like I think it's SVW, and then here you can copy the coordinates, and there we go. They should be correct. So now if we reload, we should be able to go to NSVWNF. Yeah, it's telling us to transfer through this portal. Now I will show how to add interchanges. Now an interchange is a set of stations that you can travel between by foot, and where it's reasonable for the mod to recommend that you go between them by foot, but they are considered separate stations. So this station, SVWNF, is down here, or it's N, whatever. And then up there is another station that's NSVW, and you can't actually go between these, but I'll add them as an interchange and pretend that it's reasonable to go between these just by climbing a ladder, even though there isn't a ladder. So the way that you do that is that you go here, find interchanges. Then here we can add N WNF and N, sorry, it's SVWNF and then SVW, and those should be the codes. Now if we do reload, and then we do NRS NSV WNF and NSVW. If you do this, it will, instead of making a route from your current location, it does it from the first station to the second one. And so you can see that it's recommending we go by foot, which isn't reasonable in this case, but it's just for a demonstration. Now I will show how to add an impassable marker. Now, impassable markers mean that at a certain point on a line, you have two consecutive stations, but you can't go between them. And this can be useful, for example, if world region has broken a line or something else has broken a line, so that you can go between them, or just for any other reason. Two consecutive stops on a line you can't actually go between them by rail. So if we go to the N3, let's say that here you can't go between these anymore for some reason. So then you write impassable is how you spell it. Actually, there are two spellings of that word, but I think this is one that the mod uses. Actually, it might accept both, but I don't remember, so use this spelling. Then let's save. Then reload. And now if we try to go to, what's it called? NSVNEM. Yeah. It's recommending we start at that station because it doesn't know we can go on the rail because we just told it that this rail doesn't work. Like, it's broken. Anyway, I think that was everything I wanted to cover. The wiki may have more information on the NguhRoutes wiki page. If you go here, you can see there's some information, and there's also a text tutorial, video tutorial, hopefully coming soon. But this is the video tutorial. Also, I want to mention that if you go on the Senrail network page, you can see that there's this information, but this is actually taking information from the file, and now you can see here how they've done it. So you add a line based on its code, but you can ask Onwen for more information on how the Senrail network works, or the Senrail network page, I mean. Anyway, bye.